Chris Sutton's been speaking this afternoon about Celtic players that should not be sold. And if you look at, if you remember this morning's video, I was telling you about a Celtic player that's been out on loan, and Celtic are absolutely over the moon with the way that his loan deals went. In this video, I'm going to talk about some other players that have been out on loan and some players that aren't out on loan at Celtic that could be sold this summer. Chris Sutton has went on to say that there's irreplaceable assets at Celtic just now, and Ange Postecoglou cannot afford to sell these players at any cost. It's also come out, this morning's video also spoke about the fact that Ange Postecoglou says he has a nucleus of the team that he obviously wants to keep. But Chris Sutton has insisted that Reo Hatate must stay at Celtic this summer, and Celtic must splash the cash if they want to make an impact in the Champions League this season. Reo Hatate has obviously been attracting attention from down south and abroad after an excellent season with Celtic. Hatate is by far one of the best. He is the best midfielder we've got. I mean, Callum McGregor is Mr. Consistency, but Hatate, he is at that next level. If you want to make an impact in Europe, Chris Sutton went on to say you have to have Hatate on board. He was obviously speaking on the Record podcast. He says it'll be an interesting summer with Ange Postecoglou talking about the prospect of bigger players being sold. I don't think it's the fact that bigger players will be sold. I think there may be one or two in that midfield that may be sold. There might be a winger or two, but you never know. You never know. It seems pretty seamless. And you know what? It happens all the time. Celtic get to that level and we get a bit of dominance. And thankfully, it's never happened too much in the last 10 years. We had the blip here, but that wasn't really because Celtic cut back in any ways. I mean, Celtic still went out and spent $4.5 million on Barkas, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But you know the way it is, it has been with Celtic over the years. We get that little bit in front, and then the board tend to pull back. But I don't think that will happen with Ange Postecoglou. I think that he has such a good rapport with the management and staff, and basically it's his way or the highway, and Ange Postecoglou has to stay. And it's even if Ange Postecoglou will want to stay and go for the Champions League. All this talk that he might leave is just utter nonsense, but it'll be interesting in terms of who comes in and who goes. Chris Sutton went on to say, I think Reo Hatate is irreplaceable to the way that Celtic play. They won't have to get players up to speed for the Champions League when it comes round. This is very true. The fact that the players have had that little bit Champions League experience, we're never going to get. It's such a hard. I don't know. Do you think so? And then they're changing the format for the Champions League, so we'll have to wait till August, until later July, August, once the draw is made. When you're talking about players that are going to leave, we need to look at players that are at the club and players that are out on loan. And obviously you've got the likes of Albion Ajeti, who is a no-brainer. He's flopped. We need to take a hit on him. You need to get him out the door. Mikey Johnson, you remember him. Nobody's been speaking about Mikey Johnson for weeks and months now. He's been doing quite well in Portugal. He's advanced as a player, he's grown as a player, and I think the fact that he does have Daizen Maeda on the wing, but what will come in handy for the little fella is the fact that in the Champions League you've got to have more homegrown players now. So with the homegrown rules in force, Mikey Johnson becomes valuable to Celtic, and that's why Celtic will probably keep him this summer. I think they'll get him back, and I think he's done fantastically well. But you never know. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, Celtic fans. And other players that we're talking about, James McCarthy, the unseen man. We spoke about him many times. I think James McCarthy I think Celtic will cut their losses. He does have a couple of years. He still is only 31-year-old, but if they can get him out on loan, I think he's been really an expensive flop. It's been unfortunate. His time at Celtic, it's just never happened for him. What about Liam Scales up in Aberdeen? Liam Scales has had a fantastic season up in Aberdeen. Would you bring him back, or would you let Aberdeen have their way and get the player that they really want to keep him? It's a hard one because he's got Greg Taylor and Bernabe that are going to be probably in front of him. Will he come back to sit on the bench after having such a good season at Aberdeen and scoring against the Rangers? I think that's a hard one. What about David Turnbull? A lot of people are saying they should get rid of David Turnbull. I'm saying keep David Turnbull. He's a good Scottish player. You've got to remember, Turnbull's only young as well. He's only 23-year-old. He's at that age where he needs to be playing, but he has got goals in him. You've got to remember, a few seasons back, he was scoring some absolute screamers. I say, but with Reo Hatate coming in, and Aaron Moy not getting any younger, I would keep Turnbull in the team purely for the fact that, you know, Aaron Moy's at that age where he could probably he'll get knackered in the Champions League. So that's no disrespect to Aaron. You've got to big up the Baldy guys, but I think David Turnbull's still got a good few years left in him at Celtic. Scott Bain is unsure whether he'll get a new contract. I think he's been around long enough. He really needs to be playing first team football at his age. With the Barkas is due to come back. Well, Barkas, the Willie won't he get sold to the Dutch is another question altogether. But we could be losing 2 keepers this summer. So if we do lose Barkas and Bain, it only means that we've got the one that we've got for Dundee United that's kind of not been on the bench or anything in the past couple of weeks. It has been said that Ange Postecoglou is also looking for a goalkeeper, so for a long-term replacement for the main man, Joe Hart. So what do you think? What do you think about the players? Which ones do you think will leave? Which ones do you think will go? What do you think about Chris Sutton saying that Reo Hatate must not be sold at any cost this summer? And on that note, have a great day, Celtic fans. I'll see you in tomorrow morning's Celtic FC News.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to